Michael Carnevale is branch manager and financial advisor. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, 400 Southbridge Street in Auburn, Massachusetts, 1-800-657-9126. A member of FINRA SIPC and are not deposits, not insured by FDIC or any governmental agency, not guaranteed by Webster 5-cent Savings Bank, and subject to risk, may lose value. Webster 5-cent Savings Bank is not affiliated with Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated. The information contained in this report does not purport to be a complete description of the securities markets or developments referred to in the material. The information has been obtained from sources considered to be reliable, but we do not guarantee that the foregoing material is accurate or complete. Any information is not a complete summary or statement of all available data necessary for making an investment decision and does not constitute a recommendation. Any opinions are those of Michael Carnevale and not necessarily those of RJFS or Raymond James. Expressions of opinion are as of this date and are subject to change without notice.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Richard Morco, and we're at Conversations With, where we're discussing with Mike Carnevale where we're going in the economy, in the greater world, as well as Charlton. Michael.
Yes.
How are things this month? Kind of a doldrum average month?
No.
No?
It was actually a very exciting month.
What happened that was so exciting?
Well, the Dow continued to go up over 3.5%.
Kind of boring.
Well, it's starting to get boring. Yeah. We're back over 35,500, about 1,000 points from an all-time high. We had a 13-day Dow rally during the month. It was the second longest streak in history. The longest date was 14 days, dated back to 1897, which was the second year that the Dow was formed. But this was the longest winning streak since 1987. Year to date, Dow's up 6%, S&P's up 18%, NASDAQ's up 34%. Nobody's really happy.
Yeah.
Hard to figure.
Well, what is the source of the unhappiness? Do you have any idea? Maybe inflation, and we get to that a little later.
We're going to see that over the past 12 months, wages have risen faster than inflation has. We'll see that.
Okay, we will look at that.
Unemployment, we'll see, is still at nearly a 50-year low.
Of people who are reporting.
Correct.
There are a vast pool of people who are not reporting who do not have jobs.
Right, that they're not collecting benefits or actively looking. So there's a lot of really, to say that there are a lot of positive things, a lot of negative things, people should be feeling better than they do. And so the answer there, I don't know why they're not.
All right, now you have August ranks 10th of 12. Last 10 years mixed with 6 down.
Right.
So August shouldn't be a very good month.
Shouldn't be a mixed month. It's been down historically, but the last 10 years has been kind of almost even. So if you could stay where you are today.
Should one then not take anything from that 10th of 12th figure you have?
Probably not, because that goes back to when these things began being recorded, which was in 1950. So the last 10 years, it's been mixed, essentially. So, if not much happens in August, that would sort of tie into recent history. And, based on where what we've done so far this year, that would be okay.
So, use the technicals, they saying we should be optimistic or pessimistic?
Probably a little pessimistic, mainly because if you take a look at, the NASDAQ's up 34% this year and the S&P is up 18%. Those are big gains even by any standard, so you would expect the technical indicators to say, things may be, the future may not mirror the past 7 months.
Okay. So people are thinking we might be a little overbought.
Could be, yeah. Or at the least, maybe not much more gains.
Okay. So this month shouldn't be as good a month, is what you're saying.
Right, I wouldn't think it would be. I don't think this month we'll see a 3.5% gain in the Dow.
Okay. All right.
But no big drops either, I don't think. We'll see that the economic stuff, not much is changing.
So you're saying we're in the doldrums.
Yep.
All right. The Fed, again, raising rates to 550, really keeping this going. And they're doing that because they want to put the brakes on inflation.
Yep,
And you're saying inflation is down.
it is.
In real terms, what does that mean? I mean,
Well, the rate of the increase is really slowed. You know, it peaked at 9-10% a year or so ago, and now the increase on an annual basis is down around 3% or 3.5%.
so inflation is not stopped.
It isn't stopped, no, but the rate of increases dropped
Okay.
dramatically. And that's
All right.
coupled with, we'll see wages going up more than 3% over the past year. So that's, that's a positive.
How does
don't
that
always have
happen? That inflation is down, wages go up, and no job losses. How does that happen?
It usually doesn't, right? In other words, they all talked about this, what the Fed was trying to do, the soft landing, the raising rates rapidly would crush the economy and stuff. It's never been done before. So far, it seems to be working out, at least by way of the stock market.
Certainly, people are invested, are not doing horribly right this minute.
Right.
It's always darkest. In the words of Peter Lynch, it's always darkest before it turns pitch black.
True. Yep.
All right.
Doesn't seem that way, though. At least the market isn't indicating that. And that's something, we talked about for months, where these economic indicators were not showing. Everybody was yelling, ooh, recession, oh, it's going to really be bad. And yeah, there'd be one indicator that would say that, but it wasn't followed up by other indicators that would kind of, finish the picture that we were going into a recession. And very few people believed that. But I think if you looked at, 3 or 4 of the major economic indicators, you would have seen that. You would have said, well, maybe, but doesn't look like it now.
Do you think we're just holding off the disaster?
You don't know, but a lot of large firms last month either cut their odds of a recession or said, hey, there's no recession coming. Bank of America said there's no recession coming. Goldman Sachs cut their odds down to 20%. JP Morgan said, you still could get one, but not likely, and if you did, it would be very, very brief. So the longer you don't have one, I think the odds increase you're not going to get one. The Fed has already raised rates from next to 0 to 5.5%. They're not going to raise them another 5.5%. So
Volcker raised them pretty damn high.
yeah, but if you look at the Fed funds futures market, there's 3 more meetings this year. End of September, beginning of November, and like the middle of December. And right now, big odds of no increase at any of those.
Well, it certainly doesn't have the flavor of the Volcker years. I will absolutely give you that. Mm-hmm. And I remember them. And I remember, is this going to stop? And then all of a sudden it did stop.
Right.
But is this just going to be sort of evolutionary in that we might go up another little bit, or we might come down a little bit? And we might just go up and down. Is that what's going to,
With the rates,
yeah.
probably not going to, I would guess, stay where it is for quite a while. You know, when the Fed met the last time, they said, hey, people are talking about rate cuts, and the Fed said, we don't see any rate cuts, you know, on the horizon. So, and if you look at the futures market, they're not forecasting any type of rate cut even for most of next year. So maybe the fall of 24, maybe, but it's probably going to stay where it is.
So there's not any increases contemplated.
Not any more
What
increases.
would lead the Fed to either increase or decrease?
Probably if inflation were to pick up again.
They would increase.
Yep. Or jobless claims continue to drop,
They would decrease.
they would increase.
They would increase the
Right.
rate.
Right. Because that would mean if fewer and fewer people are losing their job, that would mean the economy was heating up again, and they would want to raise rates to try to cool things down
So
or
people
head
getting-
off inflation.
People getting thrown out of work is a good thing.
Can be, well, you know, all depends on where you've recently been. You know, if we're in a real depression, people getting tossed out of work isn't good. But if we're in a very high inflation period, yeah, people have to be let go to break the inflation cycle.
So
Because history shows that as people's wages go up, they become less price sensitive. And so, you know, like a lot of people say that inflation begins at the wage level. Because, you know, if you're making 2 times your money, if you get a 100% pay raise, yeah, you're not too concerned if prices go up.
how many people get a 100% pay raise?
Oh, nobody, but yeah, I'm just the trend, in other words.
I
if
never
you're-
got one.
I never did.
And I was certainly worth it.
I tend not to ask anymore because I don't get the sentence complete and the answer's already been given to me. So, you know.
It's just kind of to see how fast somebody can say no.
Right,
I understand that.
right.
All right, so Fed rates 5%. Other countries, Canada up to, they're up to 5%. I don't think they
Correct.
just raised it.
Right, up to 5% now.
Sri Lanka, Turkey, always reliable for
Yep.
that big number.
And oil is back over $80 a barrel
What?
now. Oil.
Oil backward. Yeah, that's certainly an aspect of inflation that I don't think they included in there.
Well, inflation, in total inflation is, but when you look at core inflation, they back out the most volatile items, which are food and energy.
Which
'Cause
people
those change
need more than
dramatically.
just about anything.
Correct, correct. But, you know, oil finally started to go back up again, and just so happens to be that drilling rigs are at their lowest level since March of last year. So it's all right. In other words, how do you get oil prices to go back up? You drill less, and eventually you get it. And they've got it now.
So they really would get a higher price for oil if they got rid of every oil rig.
Right. Correct.
There are no further questions. General.
Okay.
All right. Now we're going to get to the silence right now.
Okay. All right.
Red Sox,
Doing very good
since
this year.
in the
stock
years of
market.
divisions, have finished last 5 times, and the market higher the next 4 times for an average gain of 14%. First year was minus 2%. So we're all praying for the Red Sox to go down the tubes.
Keep losing.
Okay.
Keep losing.
That's sort of different from my childhood, but
It is, but there weren't divisions in your childhood.
I know it was a better time.
It was. I think it was.
I think it was. I mean,
You know, pretty soon there's what, 15 teams in the American League?
something like that.
16?
And they had to do the division.
And there'll be 15 or 16 divisions
Yeah.
at some point. so that everybody gets in.
There'll be a team on every corner.
Yep.
All right. So a big cheerleader for higher rates is gone.
Right.
Do you think that says anything about maybe next month we have a cut, or next meeting we have a cut?
No, it's just that this particular guy took a job at Purdue University, and the person they replaced him with is not nearly as strong on raising rates as he was. But again, this is one of 10 people, so it's not going to, who vote, so it's not going to.
Not a big,
Right.
Not a big,
But again, a good sign, I guess, if you want to see, rate increases end. Better that than have somebody the other way.
okay.
That's kind of all we're talking about.
All we're talking about is
Yeah.
not much is going to happen.
Right.
Okay. Oh, good.
Right.
Goldman, and we have predictions for recession. Goldman Sachs says is not as big in that. Bank of America, no recession.
Right.
What do you think?
Probably no recession. If it hasn't happened yet. And all these people who, in January, were saying, oh, the world is coming to an end. Hasn't happened yet. And there were never any signs it was going in that direction. But it's funny, people, it's funny, someone said, well, it's more polarized now than it ever was. And I would sometimes say, I don't think it really is. It's just that people's voices are easily heard now than they were, thanks to all social media. Prior to that, you only heard what people around you
what they
said.
wanted you to hear.
Right. Now you're hearing everything. And it's still 50-50, right? So I don't know if that's the reason. People are as polarized as they are today. I think they've probably always been. It's just that we hear more of it now.
Well, yes, that's true. You can't escape everything's out there.
Right.
Whether it's, what's it called now, X?
Yes.
Twitter, what do you call it, Facebook, all these,
All of
yeah.
them, yeah.
And of course we have 24-hour news cycles.
Yeah.
We have, let's see, you've got CNBC on the TV, you've got Bloomberg, you've got Fox.
Yeah.
But they tend to move together, those three, on the TV.
Right.
So it's not like you're hearing a lot. Those are the people who listen to or watch the business news stations. They're basically getting the same thing.
Right. But then it's the other side. You're getting more on the political side. You're getting CNN and MSNBC.
Yeah, but they're not.
NPR on one side, and then Fox and
But
some
they're
of those
not.
other.
They're only in passing going on.
Right. Right. Right.
So how many people are really listening to the financial news?
Oh, I don't know if they're listening to the financials. I think they're listening to the political news, and so they're getting their information from, one of those sides, whether it's Fox News or the other side would be CNN or MSNBC, and then they're taking that and factoring it into everything, economics, the stock market, politics, everything.
Well, the radio and the TV, the partisanship is this, that like for Fox, right now, Democrats in power, world going to hell in a handbasket. Those other MSNBC and CNN, it's nirvana.
Bidenomics
Biden.
on that side.
And
it will flip, at some point.
I can't say I'm the guy who's always on the street. I'm more often in the backyard,
Yeah.
but people don't seem to be doing too well. That's the thing I get out in the greater world. They don't seem to feel. Let's put it more like they don't seem to
Yeah,
feel.
I would agree. I think it's their feelings versus they're not doing well. If you if you've got a job and the majority of people have a job and you participate in a retirement plan, you're doing well. You may not feel like you're doing well. And I think that's because of the political and all the name calling and all of that type of, if you can't, I mean, and I'm amazed really at what's gone on the political side, but you know how people say, look, if you got nothing against the other side, or just name call.
Well, how about a thought experiment here? Say you, well, if you're too old, your kid or kids want to buy houses. How easy is that compared to 20 years ago?
Much more difficult.
Very much. So, in that, how can you, in a way you can say that's kind of an aspect of a recession.
Oh yeah, I mean, sure, there are always, I mean, everything is not going great. But I think overall, even though people say they're not great, I think they're in better shape than they admit they are.
Why do they not objectively see this then? You say it's the politics?
Yeah, I think, you had, you had the Watergate, and then you had that led to the distrust in government. That always wasn't the case. I think you had 4 years of the previous administration that was all really name calling, and I think that has something to do with it, and I think that affects some people.
I will, just to a small point, disagree that if energy, gas, oil, which is basically energy in this country, and food, those are the two major components. And then you put on top of that the goal. It's termed I hate this term, the American dream, but the idea is to own your own home.
Right.
If that's becoming near unattainable or painfully attainable, things that could be defined as recessionary.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean,
I would say we need a different word to describe the economy. I'm not coming up with it. You have a month to get it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. But I think the historic ways of looking at the economy, comparing today's numbers with the same type of numbers 5, 10, 20 years ago, I mean, there are no signs that it's going to, and that's what
They have changed the components of inflation a few times.
they have.
So that the historic isn't always quite the historic.
Oh, true. But what we said, over the last, well, certainly this year, as it pertains to the stock market investing, I mean, the people who thought, oh, this is going to, the president this, I can't wait to get rid of, can't wait, I'm doing nothing, it's going down. And we kept saying, look, the information, the economics is not saying that. Those people have missed out on a pretty good rally, and that in itself can reinforce that negative type thinking. You know, well, I would have, you know, if it wasn't for, I would have gotten the 18. No, you wouldn't have, because you thought,
But most of your people stay with you.
yes,
It's only an anomalous few that say Trump said this or the Democrats said this.
Correct.
And so that's really, those are just on the outside.
Yep.
Most people stay with it because they don't really have much choice.
right.
What is the alternative? Gold?
No.
Well, maybe you're savvy enough to know when to get gold and how much to get. And certainly, I'd be the last person to say diversification isn't a good thing. Well, no, there's a few people that say it who'd be last after me. But diversification isn't a problem as long as you're doing the reasonable thing as well. But most people just stay with you and are waiting till inflation so that they, waiting till retirement so they can say, now I can spend some money, now I can have a good time. And what's the next thing after retirement?
Well, usually it's death.
Yes. So people don't retire. That's the worst. Keep the economy going. You want to live forever, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. But no, I think it's, you know, I mean, and although people stay with you, they're not always staying in the market. You know, they you know, going to other areas of investing.
But you have people who are with you long enough that they probably have one recession. They say, oh, this is the end of the world. They do something a little different, and then afterwards you say, see what happened, and then they're probably a little shy the next time.
Yep.
So keep going, people. Don't cash this out. Don't retire. Live forever.
I would sign up for that. I'd like to live forever.
But you only want to do it up in northern or western New York State.
Well, correct.
And you would
ideally.
you would be retiring essentially.
Right.
So you're cooked,
Probably. I guess there's no way around it.
I guess.
You know. But it's. I think, you know, a lot of it boils down to people have access to too much information.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You know.
Mike has come out for keeping people ignorant.
You know, yeah. No, but you know, you got a headache, you're Googling, next thing you know, you got a terminal illness. Because you're piecing little bits of information here and there.
You don't know how many home lobotomies have been done because of that. All right, let's get down to it. We've already done inflation to death here, so
Correct.
let's discuss the leading economic indicators, which we've kind of looked at. The 10 components give us a snapshot of the economy. Only stock market is positive, so we've got bad news, essentially.
This is the one economic indicator that is in the recession area. But it has been for a year.
It's been saying, every quarter has been saying we're in a recession.
Right.
And
But-
beforehand, years ago, they would say, yep, we're in a recession.
Yep.
But
But to their point, it was confirmed with some of the other information, like rising unemployment, loss of jobs, and that's what is not being seen.
well, you've got here the jobless claims of 221,000 versus 211,000 a year ago.
Right.
Well, that kind of
But think about it. That's from the Fed raising rates from nothing to 5.5%. And history shows that you need weekly jobless claims over 250,000 before they start hurting the economy. So even though you've had all these rate increases over the past year, and sure, jobless claims have gone up, they haven't gone up to the level, at least historically, that would hurt the economy. So although leading economic indicators say things aren't great, not being confirmed by jobless claims, and certainly not being confirmed by the next report, the employment report, you know, which has unemployment at levels not since the 1970s. You know,
So a person's personal recession is good for the economy.
Yeah, probably is, right? As long as it's not yourself.
That's
I mean-
well, I'm sure just about everybody has heard this. A recession is when you lose your job. A depression is when I lose my
Correct.
job.
Correct. It's all personal.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, you've raised rates for a year. At least in the month of June, you still created 209,000 jobs, and you've had 30 straight months of job gains.
This is one thing when somebody says they've created a job,
Right.
I tend to think that's a loaded phrase. Maybe a job occurred, but creation of a job, that's sort of like, you know, you're looking at Michelangelo's The Creation, where the
Well,
divine...
I don't know. I mean, whether it had to occur somehow. So whether you say 209,000 new jobs occurred, or they were created, I think it's the same thing. It wasn't there before, so it was either.
Well, no, it could have been there. We let Larry go
Yeah.
on the loading dock,
Yeah.
but then business picked up, and we brought him back.
Yeah.
We didn't create that job.
Nope.
We just brought Larry back.
Right, but
That's not creating a job.
Larry's negative would appear in the jobless claims report.
Yes, and
Larry's coming back would appear in the employment report. So the labor market really is like 2 or 3 different areas. And you're having those 2 areas both going in the right direction. You're creating more people working. Of course, then the other side as well, but they're low-paying jobs. But you don't hear that when people get laid off. Well, I wouldn't worry about the layoffs. They were low-paying jobs. So I mean, it's sort of like, you know, I mean, people want to have it both ways.
I'm shocked.
Yes.
Well, we have come to the end of our time.
All right.
So we have finished creating this week's show. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been Mike Carnevale and Richard Morco, and thank you for being with us.